Okay, well, I'm joined here with Ian Austin, current Dudley North MP for the Labour Party. Well, let's start with, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. I'm good. It's good to see you. I remember we did this a couple of years ago, so
Yeah,
great to be doing it again.
a few more grey hairs this time for myself, not you, of course.
I wonder what you were saying. Bit worried.
Anyway, should we get straight into
Yeah.
the issues at hand? It's
Sure.
well, how will you ensure that youth issues will be represented correctly in Dudley North?
Well, I spent the last 12 years saying that we need to make education and skills Dudley's number one priority to give local young people a good education and a great start in life. I've worked really hard to improve facilities at local schools, to work with the college on the brilliant new buildings they've got there. I'm now campaigning for a new £30 million university campus, University Centre Dudley, which will provide high-level apprenticeships and degree-level qualifications. Youth unemployment, long-term youth unemployment in the Black Country is twice the national average. And so the number one thing for me is, how do we open up opportunities for young people, drive up educational standards, attract new jobs and new industries to the area, and enable more young people to get apprenticeships.
Wonderful. What will you do to improve youth participation in politics in the next Parliament?
Well, I've worked really hard to encourage local young people to become more involved in politics. I think it's down to politicians to earn young people's trust and confidence. You can't blame young people for not being interested. The fault for that lies with politicians who are not sort of not engaging people properly, not talking about the issues young people are interested in, not listening to them and responding to the concerns they've got. So, I spend loads of my time at Dudley College talking to young people there. I've organised lots of trips to Parliament for local young people from schools and the college. We've given hundreds of young people, I think, of local young people, the opportunity to come in and work with us and to find out what goes on, in our office here. I think that the voting age should be reduced to 16. I think if you're old enough to get married, to join the armed forces, to get a job, to pay taxes, you ought to be you're old enough to vote. So I think on all these issues, I've tried to listen to young people, to hear what their concerns are, and to and to respond to that. And I think that I think young people have had a raw deal, if I'm honest. I mean, I think you look at tuition fees, £9,000 a year, young people coming out of university, £50,000 worth of debt, long-term youth unemployment here in the Black Country, twice the national average, the EMA being abolished. I mean, these I think these issues are a scandal. I mean, it's no surprise to me that young people don't have much confidence in the political process. But I think the number one thing you've got to say to young people is this: if you're angry about things, you've got to vote. You've got to get involved. You've got to have your voice heard. You've got to make people listen to you. If you're angry about things, vote for change, right? Tell politicians what you want them to do for you. Get involved. Make sure you vote.
Wonderful. You did touch on youth unemployment. So Dudley has a real youth unemployment problem.
Yeah.
What are you going to do differently, not only to make sure jobs are created, but they keep them in the area?
Well, I think the number one issue is education skills. That's how we're going to attract in the modern economy, where the jobs you get and the industries you attract to an area depend on the skills you've got and the knowledge you've got. We've got to make sure that young people. Look, I think young people in the Black Country are as good as anybody from anywhere, but we've got to make sure they get the best possible education and the best possible level of skills. And that's what the new college buildings in Dudley that I've worked so hard to support are all about. So that's about new technical qualifications, cutting edge new industries. That's the sort of thing I think we've got to. Those are the sorts of skills we've got to equip people in this area with. And if we do that, we can attract the new industries and new jobs of the future. And for me, that's the number one thing for the Black Country. So I keep saying educational skills are the number one priority.
Wonderful. And before we let you escape,
Yeah.
Why should the young people, and let alone them, everybody, vote for you in this upcoming election?
Well, because I think in the end, there's no one who's going to listen to young people in Dudley more than I do and work harder than I do to open up opportunity for them in the future. When I look around, I can point to facilities at schools that, I've helped get the funding for. Nobody worked harder than me to bring the new college buildings to Dudley, which made a massive difference to the area and are enabling local young people to get more qualifications and better opportunities for the future than ever before. And no one's going to work harder than I do to bring the new higher level apprenticeships and skills centre, University Centre Dudley, to this town. I've been talking about that for years. I'm really pleased that it's now on the agenda for everybody. I'm going to work really hard to drive that to drive that forward. In the end, look, I believe in young people from this area. I grew up here. I had a good start in life here, and I want the same thing for other young people today. And for me, as I keep saying, education skills are the number one priority, and that's because nobody's going to work as hard as I do to open up opportunities for young people in Dudley.
Fantastic. Thank you for your time and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm joined here with a Dudley North candidate for the UKIP party. It's Bill Etheridge. Should we start with how are you doing?
I'm doing all right, thanks. I'm a bit tired and my back's aching from going in low letterboxes, but I'll get by. I'm sure I'll get worse before the end of the election.
Anyway, let's crack on. How will you ensure youth issues are represented in Dudley North?
Well, the same way as I'm going to ensure all other issues are represented, I actually pride myself on being quite approachable, even though my image in the papers may not suggest so, but I do think that anyone can talk to me about anything, and they often do. So I'm quite comfortable that folks can just come up to me, whatever age they are, whatever background they are, and tell me what they think, tell me what they need, and I know I'll go out there and represent them the best I can. I'm not going to have any particular special plan. I'm just going to be my normal self, approachable hopefully to the public, and a big gob when it's required.
Wonderful. What will you do to improve youth participation politics in the next Parliament?
Well, the important thing, I think, to try and get more youth participation is to have more interesting policy ideas and to have them in a more forthright manner. I think politics can be really dry and boring, and there's this effort to all try and be centre ground and all try and be responsible and stick to the status quo to a certain degree. Well, casting my mind back many years when I was young, that would have bored me to death. I think something where you've got some original ideas where you say, well, throw some stuff in, what do you think? And have a real sort of open debate and discussion about it. That's what I want to do, because I do find at the moment politics gets so dull. And I like to come out with some unusual ideas and check them out, and I want other people to do it as well. We should be open to talk about anything.
So you want to be approachable?
Well, I think I am. I mean, I think, I've been doing this now for a few years, and I think most people in the area that I represent know that they can come up to me. But in terms of youth engagement, having some policy forum ideas that can really get people going. Let's talk about the issues that are taboo. I mean, I admire what the Lib Dems have done with talking about drug policy. That's the kind of thing that we should open up and not be afraid of. Talk about it and see what we can come up with. I'm keen to see some new ideas on that.
Let's move on to unemployment problems now. Dudley has a real sort of youth unemployment problem. What are you going to do to differently, not to only make sure new jobs are created, but to make sure they're sustained?
Well, there's several key areas in this, and I always hark back to when I started in work. I worked as an unskilled labourer in a bottling factory stacking crates, and I learned how to work from there, the disciplines involved and everything. And I think there's been a problem over recent years with oversupply of labour. There's been a lot of people coming to this country to work. All due respect to them, I do not blame them at all. I'm very impressed with what they've done to come into this country for work that maybe a lot of British people wouldn't sometimes go out there to try and get. But we've got to have the opportunities there for people to get on the jobs ladder, and you don't just walk straight in at the top. As I found out myself, it takes many years to get even halfway anywhere. So it's a long slog, but you need that chance to start off with. So I want to see less supply of labour available, so that actually you've got to give young people at the start of their career a chance. I'd also like to see policies within certainly the Black Country area where we start to reinvigorate manufacturing and look at ways we can bring it back. I sound like an old codger, but when I started work back in 1989, it was manufacturing everywhere. Look at it now, and there's hardly anything. We can do it. We can still bring it back. We are historically a great manufacturing area. We need to look at business-friendly policies, tax incentives, training where it's required, and just ways to get business back into the area. It's great. There's nothing like seeing people make something, bashing a bit of metal and pressing components out. It's fantastic. That's what this area should do. It's what we've always done.
Wonderful. And finally, before we let you go, why should young people, in fact, why should anybody vote for you in this up-and-coming election?
Because I'm by far the best candidate. The top and bottom it is that I hope that people will vote for me, not based on national issues, because I think the national issues of all the parties are getting so blurred. You know, everyone's claiming everyone else's policies, and everyone's, you know, quite frankly, there's a lot of misinformation going on. I think really in these kind of elections, you should judge on the character involved. Now, if you don't like someone like me, who is not exactly a classic politician, I try to be approachable, I've got a big mouth, I try and make a noise about stuff. If you don't want that, then you should vote for one of the others. If you want someone who's prepared to talk about anything, get stuck in and really have a go, and perhaps be a bit artless about it, but really give of their best, then vote for me, and we'll see what we can do.
Thank you, and all the best.
Thanks.
I'm in the middle of Dudley Town here with the Conservative candidate for Dudley North election up and coming. It's Les Jones. So how's it going so far?
It's going well. I've never enjoyed canvassing so much as I have this year, because it's been it's an interesting year.
Would you say you've probably had a little bit more time to actually get yourself sorted, ironically, this year?
Well, not that much more. I mean, we were only given, I think, 7 weeks' notice of the election, so it's maybe I had 2 weeks more this time than I did last time.
More than you need.
Well, plenty, yeah.
Anyway, let's get on with the questions in hand. How will you ensure that youth issues are represented in Dudley North?
Well, there's a simple answer to that, but it actually comes in two parts. One is to use, I know it's an old cliche, but use these in the same proportion to that. Listen rather than speak. Because I do find one of the problems with older politicians is they have a habit of telling people what's good for them. I'd rather ask people what's good for them. Then, if I disagree, I can have a debate, but I don't think I should make the decision for them. But one of the things I think will make sure of that is to make sure you listen to them on an ongoing basis, not just once. I have a plan to hold surgeries. Years ago, I used to do citizenship classes in schools, and I was thinking of having open surgeries in schools on a regular basis, and in the college over the road here, so that students can come with specific student issues and talk to me about them, and that gives me an understanding of where they're coming from, rather than just assuming I know. And of course, a lot of issues that affect young people affect older people too. It's just that we don't necessarily see them in the same way. So that's what I would be aiming to do, is have regular engagement, maybe even monthly.
What will you do to improve youth participation in politics in the next Parliament?
Well, principally, we've got a youth parliament. In fact, one of the members of that youth parliament is not helping me in my campaign, but I think that's a good step towards it. There are two things I can do. As a member of Parliament, I'll be able to invite people down to Parliament, and so they can see the workings of what goes on there. But the other one is going back to my first answer. Make sure that I go into schools, colleges, places where young people hang out as well, not just those formal settings, and engage with them. Because if you listen and learn, you can also maybe get people to balance. What you see on TV is one argument put and then somebody else refuting it. Sometimes it's good to hear what people think is good and then explain to them what the potential pitfalls are. That's how you get people to participate in life. So I think it works just as well in participating in politics.
Okay, let's move slightly on from that. Dudley has a real youth unemployment problem.
Yeah.
What are you going to do differently to not only make sure that jobs are created, but they're also sustained?
Yeah, well, that is a big issue. In fact, it's the biggest issue that I'm interested in here. First of all, our schools have had pretty poor performance levels for decades now. I'm quite pleased with what the government are doing, which is allowing new schools to pop up and replace those that are failing. I don't think local authorities have been very good at getting a grip on that, particularly Dudley. Even when I was leader, I don't think we really got a grip on the performance levels. So we've got to improve schooling at that level. We need basic numeracy and literacy before we can do anything. But I'm also supporting the college over the road here. Their developments to date, I actually put a lot of work into the funding side of that when it was originally proposed. This college has now become a fantastic place to get people skilled, especially in engineering, which is the heart of what we do here. But of course, we're looking at modern engineering, which is not the same as the old days. You used to be able to manage with a semi-skilled workforce on half-decent pay. Now they want much more capable people. This college is providing part of that, and the college is also looking to expand into, I think it's level 8, where you're getting to university level engineering qualifications. If we can get a centre in Dudley for that, we can give people the opportunity to get those jobs. We've got to keep them here, and the way to do that is to attract businesses that will sustain good value employment. What we've got, in fact, is a big gap between the two. But it's a chicken and egg situation. You can't get the good employers in here until you've got the skill sets to match. So we're not looking at something that's going to happen next week, but over the term of a 5-year parliament, that would be my ambition. Upskill people, make sure that they've got the qualifications that the businesses need, and make sure that the businesses that provide high quality jobs are coming to Dudley.
But I know you're busy, so we're going to ask you one final question. Why should young people and poor people in this local area vote for you?
Well, one, because of what I've just said about wanting to engage with young people, because after all, they are the future of the area. Two, I was born less than 5 miles away from where we're standing now, so I know this area. It's where my heart is. And I spent 18 years as a councillor over the road there in the council house, trying to do the best for the community as I can. But I think I can take that to another level if I can get elected to Parliament and serve the people of this borough as I think they deserve to be served.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot for your time and best of luck.
Cheers.
In the middle of Dudley Town, I'm joined here the Liberal Democrat candidate for the Dudley North upcoming election, Ben France. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How's the campaign going?
It's very busy, it's taken a lot of planning, taken a lot of time, but it's brilliant.
Wonderful. How will you ensure that youth issues are represented in Dudley North?
I think one thing that all candidates must do is make sure they work with the youth councils and the student councils at colleges and schools. I think that young people are an untapped goldmine of knowledge and wisdom. I'd also fight as hard as possible against the hard Brexit. Students and young people voted overwhelmingly to remain in the European Union. I think it's important we try and keep our access to the single market for the opportunities and jobs that it provides to our young people.
And what will you do to improve youth participation in politics in the next Parliament?
I think just as employers and schools and colleges won't accept anything other than a C grade in GCSE English and Maths, that's for all the students out there, I think we shouldn't accept anything less than a certain level of political education. And young people should have every week mandated political lessons. It's the easiest topic in the world to teach. It touches on everything that young people do, where they go, how much they earn, and who they can vote for. So I think once we've got that minimum level, we can lower the age for voting to 16, so they feel they have a stake in society rather than feel alienated from it.
And Dudley has a real youth unemployment problem. What are you going to do differently to make sure that not only jobs are created, they're also sustained?
I'm a teacher and I work obviously with a lot of young people, and they're planning to go to university and never come back. They don't see a future here in Dudley, and it breaks my heart. This is my hometown and I absolutely love it. But I think the key here is apprenticeships. We need to expand the number of apprenticeships away from just technical education into the creative sector, because a lot of certainly academic students, the pathway to academia is closed off now. Many people who take a degree don't go on to become professors and lecturers, they then move into industry, but they don't have the necessary skills. But if we build that into our education system from a very young age, then they have more opportunities and they'll feel like this is a place where they want to stay. And I think Dudley is the perfect place to build more of these technical academies, which were started under the coalition and need to be expanded and improved.
Well, and I know you're a busy man, so we won't keep too much longer. Last thing is, why should not only young people, why should anybody in this area vote for you?
My own personal story, I became involved in politics when I got a place at the Vancouver Film School in Canada. And I wrote to my local MP in Dudley North and asked for help. And I got a very perfunctory and a dismissive response from them. And from that point on, I realised that I had to help myself. That's wrong. Our young people, anyone should be able to contact their MP and get help. And I moved away for many years and came back 7 or 8 years ago. And I've seen Dudley pass between Labour and Tory in the council in the general election. And Dudley people are some of the finest in the world. But Dudley town isn't. And I think it needs the love and care from someone who has fought and worked in Dudley to make it a better place.
Thank you very much and good luck in the upcoming election. Hello, it's Mike here, just about to talk to the next Dudley North candidate, and it's Andrew Nixon from the Green Party for the UK Elect 17. How will you ensure youth issues are represented in Dudley North?
The Green Party takes youth issues very seriously, and I think that our policies are well received generally by younger people, and in Dudley North especially. I think that there are a number of green policies relating to equality in work and education which would help to give the young people of Dudley North a voice.
What will you do to improve youth participation in politics in the next Parliament?
Turning up at a polling station and voting is a habit which lasts a lifetime. One of the Green Party policies that we have is reducing the age that you can vote in general elections from 18 to 16. And if I'm elected as the MP for Dudley North, this is something that I would like to see happen. It worked very well in the Scottish independence referendum, and I think it can work very well in other elections throughout the UK as well.
Dudley has a real youth unemployment problem. What are you going to do differently to not only make sure jobs are created, but to ensure they're sustained?
Young people in our region need to not feel that they have to travel to Manchester or London or other places to get a good, well-paid job. These should be spread throughout the country. We shouldn't be in a position where we're relying on large enterprises bringing these jobs to the region who could then, move them across Europe or internationally. We need to be developing small and medium enterprises, particularly that exist on our high street, that have a relationship with the community and are seen as developing skills and the economy in that community. I think young people are a really important part of this because their involvement in this kind of activity helps us to instill it for a lifetime. If a young person is starting a business at the age of 17, 18, 19, then they're going to be continuing to work in that community potentially for the next 50 years or so, sharing their skills and sharing the fruits and their earnings with the rest of the community.
And finally, why should not only young people but all people in Dudley vote for you?
The Green Party offers people a brighter future, and I think that this is especially important for young people because now's at a time when we can change politics for the rest of their lifetimes. We can make politics into something that's less cynical, that helps communities, that helps drive people forward and through times of change. I think that politicians are often asked what qualifies them to do a job, and I'm not sure that this is a relevant point. I think that the vision of the person who is being elected to represent and lead them is the most important thing, and I think that the Green Party has many people like this, certainly in the West Midlands and nationally, to take forward these positive ideas and this positive politics and implement it for a economically and environmentally bright future.